So, George, one could argue reasonably and successfully that your presidency has been marked by the notion of continued expansion in terms of content, in terms of location, where we've 46 networks around the world now, in terms of how we utilize technology to serve fans, in terms of how we do our business. You know, the innovation can come not just in how content's presented, but in also the business models that we create. And now we're with video online and apps on iPhones and iPads and wireless. I mean, all those things have really flourished under your leadership. How would you define your years as president since 1998?
Continued growth, you know, as you're saying. I mean, we want to keep moving the ball forward here. We're in a very competitive business. There's plenty of companies out there that would like to emulate the success ESPN has had, and we have competition in virtually every segment that we're in. It's funny, oftentimes people don't think ESPN has much competition, and I think that's because there's not too many companies, if any, that really look like us with our breadth of assets. But that belies the notion that there's no competition. We have competition in every segment we're in, whether it's just the television or just .com or just print or just radio or just international. There's competition every which way you turn. So to stay ahead of the competition, we got to continue to do things better, faster, stronger than others do. And so we are anything, as you know, but complacent about serving fans. And that's the mission of the company, to serve sports fans wherever they wish to be served, however they wish to be served, whenever they wish to be served. And that's really what drives our company in new apps, new networks, new products, new regions, new sports. We want to do it all, and we are very committed to continuing to move the ESPN ball forward.
Tell quickly the story of how we launched ESPN HD, because I think that encapsulates everything you just talked about, and it is the essence of how we operate under your presidency.
Yeah, ESPN HD launched, I believe, in 2003.
Did, yes.
And you may recall, those of you in the business, that you know, HD was a topic, but a confusing one. There was multiple technical standards. There was no business model, and no one really seemed to know what to do. I think everybody seemed like they were throwing their collective hands up in the air. And really, I credit Chuck Pagano, ESPN's longtime head of technology, with coming forward and saying, you know, if we believe everything we say we do about our mission and wanting to be leaders, we really don't have a choice but to launch HD, because just look at it, it's a better picture. And if you're a fan, it's just better. And there was really nothing to argue with there. So he said, I'll figure out what I think's the best technology, which he did, 720p we launched with. And he said, you figure out the business model, which our affiliate distribution folks did. And we never looked back. We were the first to launch HD as a full-time network, and we acquired the necessary rights. And now nobody produces more HD product, forget the sports business, and the entire television business, than ESPN does. You don't want to watch a game that isn't HD, and you're never going to buy another set that isn't HD capable. So it's a perfect example of kind of the ESPN thinking, not sure what the model is, but know it's a better product, and knowing that if we're going to continue to maintain our leadership position, we got to go. And that's what we did, and that's just the latest example that's paying off for the company.
So I agree, and we hope to replicate that with 3D. And we're in the same kind of circumstance, not sure what the business model is. Tell quickly the story, you know, when we announced that at CES and the conversation you had with Bob Iger.
Yes, we were announcing our 3D network at last year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, I guess in mid-January, and I'm on my way to Las Vegas, and we had announced, we issued a press release the day before this press event we were doing with Sony out at CES, and I'm en route to Las Vegas. I got a call from Bob Iger, CEO of Walt Disney Company. Conversation went something like this. Bob said, hey George, I noticed you're launching a 3D network. That sounds great. And I said, yeah, yes we are. And he said, well, would you mind sending me the plan? And I said, well, Bob, rest assured, just as soon as we have a plan, you'll be the first one to get it. And it's that story is 99% true. I mean, yeah, we had a plan, but I wouldn't call it very well vetted out because we're making decisions on the fly here. The business is brand new, the technology is new, the sponsors are new, the distributors are new to distributing 3D. So we are truly in a startup mode, a science project, if you will, and we don't have a full-blown plan on how to make ESPN 3D work, but it's exactly where we like to be as a company. We're figuring it out. We're serving fans, and if the fans want to be served by 3D, we'll have a 5 or 6 year head start on most other companies because we're out here on the early going. And as I said, it's exactly where we like to be.
So you became president. I want to hit this, and then we're going to get into a litany of kind of content decisions that you had to be involved in now that you might have influenced before, but now you were responsible for. But before we do that, I think it'd be great for you to kind of delineate briefly what you believe the company's strategy is and what strategy you brought to ESPN.
Followed closely behind the what keeps you up at night question is the, can you tell me about ESPN strategy? And I get asked that frequently, and I often feel as though the questioner is expecting an extremely articulate, buzzword-laden, thoughtful response. And I've thought long and hard about the answer, and I think our strategy is no more complicated than we try a lot of things. And the things that work, we try to make them better and better and better every day. And the things that don't work, we stop doing. That's how I think of the ESPN strategy, and I hope that never changes. I hope this company keeps trying new things, as often as they possibly can. And I hope the employees are motivated to try new things and take risks and keep trying to serve fans better and better. And I don't care if half of them don't work. As long as half of them are great and move our ball forward and we can invest in them and grow them, that'll keep this company on good footing.
One thing that worked but didn't work, that was a decision you had to be faced with fairly early in your tenure as president, was the original entertainment series Playmakers, which was a fictional representation of what it was like to be on a professional football team. And there were some things in that program which viewers loved. It was a critical success that the NFL weren't so enamored with. We were faced with a decision. You can pick it up from there.
Yeah, I mean, Playmakers, got to give credit to Mark Shapiro, who was heading up our programming and production at the time for the development of that program, and along with his staff, critical success. NFL, to say they weren't enamored with it was a bit of an understatement. They were just very displeased by the whole thing and its portrayal of NFL football players, and I had to decide that to pull the plug on it. It wasn't in the best interest of our relationship, and it was purely an entertainment product. It wasn't anything to do with news and information, which we maintain a complete separate wall with on our entertainment side. So I mean, it wasn't that hard a decision to kill it. I mean, we're in business with the leagues, and if it was that offensive to them, I didn't find it was that hard a decision. We told the truth in our press releases, which is good strategy, and we were done with it. But it was a critical success.
Now, there's a church and state that exists at ESPN. The news gathering operation is encouraged to be journalists.
Mm-hmm.
They are encouraged to be journalists, and I know that creates some difficult times for you or difficult phone calls. But this wasn't one of those times. This was something we created and made up on as we went along, as so many TV shows are outside of live games. So I want to make sure everyone understands that we're not afraid to be journalists here.
No, we
This
have
was
a
not
huge
that.
journalistic operation. Sports Center at the Soul, and they report on the day's news as they see fit, and maintain high journalistic standards in doing so. But it's completely separate from our relationships with the leagues and any other business entities that we're in business with, and it creates pressures all the time. But they maintain their operation, and they they report on the news as they see fit.
Let's talk about SportsCenter, George. Other than ESPN, it's probably our most important brand. What has it meant to our company over the years?
Well, I mean, from the very beginning, the first night when Lee Leonard threw to George Grand, literally within the first 5 minutes of ESPN being on the air, and George laid out the vision for SportsCenter as being here to, chronicle the day's events in sports news. We've been doing that, every day since then for over 31 years now, and I consider SportsCenter really the soul and the backbone of ESPN. I can't overstate its importance to the company and to how the fans think of our company, and the importance to what we do every single day. We put our heart and soul into putting the product together, and we're extremely proud of the award-winning shows and folks that we have working on it.
The folks who have been on air over the years from SportsCenter, we've got some icons in the industry who really meant a lot to our company. Some still working for us, some who moved on, but still their importance. Who comes to mind? I know it's dangerous.
Well,
to do
certainly,
a list.
Chris Berman stands out in the early days. Obviously, still with us, the face of our NFL football coverage and creator of the nicknames that he blazed a trail for. Had it start on SportsCenter. The late Tom Mees was a stalwart. George Grand, Bob Lee, many of those folks. Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann. They all had big roles in SportsCenter.
Robin
Hannah
Roberts.
Storm, now Robin Roberts, Linda Cohn. I mean, I could sit here for an hour and list, people who have played a big role in SportsCenter over the years and still not do justice to the list. And I'm just touching on the treetops with a few,
Right.
but really wonderful people who've worked very hard. I mean, that show is a labor of love. Every day, every weekend, every holiday, when sports are occurring, which is every day of the year, we're on the air. We now have 17 SportsCenter editions outside the United States as well, so SportsCenter's grown to be a global operation. Really came together this year with our coverage of the World Cup from South Africa. Really, our whole news and information operation, headlined by SportsCenter, probably hit its peak this summer in terms of cooperation, quality amongst themselves with our operations globally, quality of what they're doing, volume. I mean, on any level, it's peaking, and hope not peaking, but is at a peak, and I hope continues to grow.
Global cooperation is kind of a neat trick when you think of all the different languages and whatnot. But they were all together in South Africa, and it helped.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see, and I got a chance to tour our facilities over there this summer, and seeing the different cultures and the different languages and the ESPN people all coming together to produce the best product they can under the ESPN SportsCenter banner. In many cases, we take an awful lot of pride in that.
NBA, we're going to jump now to a lot of different content platforms. NBA deal. We've been in business with them now since the early 90s. And, it's expanded since you became president. We didn't have that, only for a little short time in the early 80s. So talk about the importance of the NBA in rounding out our content offerings.
Well, the NBA is an exceedingly strong property. It's also of our properties, one of the most global in nature. So we have a relationship that goes well beyond the United States with the NBA, and they're very strong internationally. But I really credit David Stern and Adam Silver and the ownership of the NBA. Great business partners. They have a heck of a product, and it remains a strong product for us. And we put a lot of resources into covering the NBA from the opening day, which was just last week, to right through the NBA Finals, which we telecast, and it's a wonderful property.
We currently don't have a domestic television agreement with the NHL, but there was a time when we did, and it meant we had deals with all four major professional American sports unprecedented in our industry. May never see it again. That was a pretty cool moment in time, I'd guess, in your head, right?
That was a great moment for us, and having the NHL and Major League Baseball and the National Football League and the National Hockey League all under contract at one time was a first in our industry, and we were very proud of it. And combined with the long-standing relationship we've had with NASCAR, we've had, major sports under contract with ESPN, on and off for 30, going on 30 years now. If you add the NCAA in there, which you certainly should, and really, it's in many cases, in most cases, fantastic people to do business with, and people who share our passion for sports, all either own teams or work in those leagues, and it's been interesting doing business with them for all these years.
I know you often get asked, George, when do you get hockey back? And you say, well, domestically, because we do have an agreement with them digitally and in other parts of the world, which most folks who look at us don't recognize that we do have businesses, vibrant businesses outside the U.S.
Yeah, I don't consider ourselves a U.S. company with an international division. I consider our company a global sports and entertainment company, and we have relationships, as you're pointing out, with most of the leagues for various distribution or syndication deals outside the United States. So oftentimes the questions are pegged just domestically, and I choose to answer them globally because we have global relationships with virtually everybody.
Right. You mentioned women's sports earlier, and the woman who called you and said, I didn't recognize we were a male. We have in the middle of an 11-year agreement with the NCAA for the women's basketball tournament. We just recently announced a new initiative, ESPNW, to reach more efficiently women's fans, female sports fans. It's not about women's sports. It's about females who are fans and serving them a little bit better. Let's talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Well, I'm very proud of our record of employing women, both in front and behind the camera. ESPN wouldn't run nearly as well as it does without its female employees. About 30% of our audience are female sports fans. Nobody televises more women's sports by far than ESPN. You mentioned the NCAA women's basketball tournament. We're helping to grow that great event. Had high ratings for the finals last year. And just recently we started ESPNW, which is a women's-oriented sports media business designed not only for women's sports fans, but also high school and college female athletes, which we feel is an underserved market. We just had our first forum for ESPNW, a get-together out in California. It was a big success. So I believe there's going to be big things to come from ESPNW, and we are focused on all sports fans, regardless of your gender.
Well, ESPN Deportes is another great example of that, George, that launched under your tenure. Another great example, I think, of just trying to grow in all appropriate directions. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
ESPN Deportes network growing here in the U.S., focused on Hispanic fans. My biggest regret is that we talked about it for too long before getting around to launching it. I wish we'd have launched that 10 years earlier. We'd be that much further ahead, but we didn't. We talked about it and thoroughly analyzed it and got into business a number of years ago, but it's growing, and you obviously look at the demographics of the United States. It's going to continue to have a place in the ESPN family, a big place for many years to come. I'm very excited about its growth prospects.
It's also multi-platform. It's not just a TV network, but it's radio, it's online, there's a magazine,
It's everything that ESPN, the network, is. It's cutting across all mediums. We want to serve the Hispanic sports fan wherever he or she wishes to be served. So our formula and our model is pretty simple.
30 for 30, George, a documentary to celebrate our 30 years, but not a celebration of us. Big-time movie producers hired to tell their own stories because they're all sports fans. It's been a huge platform for us. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm very proud of 30 for 30, and as you pointed out, we put it together in concert with our 30th anniversary, and we wanted to give prominent filmmakers a chance to tell the untold stories, the stories that they wish to be told, and whether it's Wayne Gretzky's move to L.A. or the Terry Fox story, or the Martina Chrissy, rivalry. I mean, there's been 30 great stories, and really, really proud of the work there. And I know that the documentary filmmaking will continue on at ESPN because there's so many great stories, and sports fans are thirsting to see and hear them.
You think of us as ESPN being a storyteller. There's no better stories being told than what those folks are doing. It's been a heck of a thing for us. George, we started at the very beginning. I outlined what your title is, and you oversee ABC Sports as well. And there was a time in I think 2006 where we kind of said all the future programming on ABC that's sports related will be branded ESPN on ABC. Somewhat controversial because ABC Sports is an icon in our industry. Something people strive to live up to, and we did in the very early days of our company, and continue to honor the legacy. But was that a difficult moment in time for you? Because some people said, "Oh my goodness, Ruinology is going to turn over in his grave," to think that ABC Sports will no longer exist as a singular entity.
Well, I mean, I'd say it was challenging. We're blessed here at the Walt Disney Company with two fabulous brands, right? I mean, we all grew up with ABC Sports, and Roon and Bob Iger, our CEO, grew up at ABC Sports as well, and they had a wonderful, wonderful legacy. The Olympics, Monday Night Football, Wide World of Sports. I mean, you go on and on and on with the legacy that was ABC Sports. And then, we woke up one day and, 25, 30 years later, we had ESPN, which was, its own brand and making its own mark on sports. And the ESPN brand has grown to such a point where we felt we could utilize it to benefit the sports that is programmed on the ABC television network. So we worked on a plan to do just that, and took it to all of our constituents, the advertisers, the affiliated stations with ABC, the ABC television network management, and we produced a plan that showed we could actually benefit all those constituencies by rebranding the sports that airs on ABC television network ESPN on ABC. And it allowed us to utilize this growing ESPN brand more broadly in all of the homes that are reached by the ABC television network, and it has improved the perception of sports that's televised on ABC. And the ABC affiliates see that, are happy with it, recognize it, and it's really working quite well for both the Walt Disney Company and our distributors, the ABC affiliated stations.
So you started out in this business as a cable guy who didn't have cable in his home, and now you're a cable guy and a broadcast guy and a radio guy and an online guy. I mean, we're all everything, But it's interesting, a transformation for you. I know recently you gave a speech, and I believe that maybe was he the former president or current president of the ABC affiliate board came. I mean, which was a testament to the relationship that we built with that end of our industry, and we didn't grow up there.
No, we didn't, but we're proud of how we manage the sports business of the Walt Disney Company, and we supply what we think is the best product in the world to the cable affiliates and the ABC broadcast affiliates, and we manage to serve them both, and we pride ourselves in doing that.
I would venture to say that Monday Night Football would be the singular programming entity that certainly the highest rated, but you manage both ABC Sports and ESPN as that property was about ready to go from ABC to ESPN as part of a new deal the league did with all of its television partners. Talk about Monday Night Football. When we joined the company so many years ago, Monday Night Football was and remains a television icon. Probably didn't think it would ever be on ESPN, yet now it is.
No, I think Monday Night Football is the greatest sports television property that's ever been created. It's now in its 41st year. And having being involved with its transition from ABC to ESPN is, something that we take a lot of pride in. ABC, created this magnificent part of the culture of America, which Monday Night Football is. I mean, for a lot of sports fans, that's the only game of the week they watch. For many people, it's the only sports they watch all week because it just has that kind of patina that's been established in our culture. It's Monday night, and you tune in. And so to be involved with that franchise in partnership with the NFL is just a great, great experience, and one that I think ESPN is breaking new ground in with our production of it, our promotion of it, game lead up, post game, all that. That is ESPN's bread and butter. We bring that whole show, if you will, to Monday Night Football, and it's thriving on ESPN.
We're able to bring all of our platforms to the presentation, and it still is the only game played that day, which will always be special. It's the only game every player can watch their peers. And I know controllable voting time and all that stuff's important. One thing before we get off the ABC thing, George, because I do think it's important, and a lot of folks who are going to be looking at this will remember the days of the salad year, so to speak, of ABC Sports, which was the leader. I kind of react to this. What happened in 2006 and what continues in terms of the branding isn't so much is more about cable as an industry achieving a level of parity than broadcast becoming less important. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would think so.
As a distribution platform.
Yeah, I mean, broadcast and cable, most broadcasters are delivered to the home now in the majority of the homes that they are seen in via cable. So I would say certainly cable has grown up over the 40 years or so it's been around to be an integral part of distributing broadcast networks. So they're intertwined, their businesses.
We're lucky to have three, if you look at ESPN, two equally distributed platforms, and it's a nice set of assets to have. The industry's changed in your tenure. Our partners in the distribution side of things, as well as in the league side of things, are also programmers. So while we're partners on one moment in time, 10 minutes later we might be a competitor of sorts. That's happened largely under your watch, and we've been able to navigate those waters fairly seamlessly, though not without some difficulty behind the scenes, I'm sure. What are your thoughts on how that's all evolved and how we operate on a day-to-day basis?
I think the league's entrance into the multi-channel marketplace is a natural evolution. I mean, they all have needs for growing revenue and distribution and getting their own messages out. So, it's natural, and I understand it. I mean, the barriers to entry are pretty low now. You've got cable systems with plenty of channel capacity, and the internet provides distribution capability. So I think we certainly can learn to coexist. It's definitely a change, and we now are battling for whether it's subscription fees or advertising or viewers' time and attention. So it's introduced a competitive notion, but time will tell how it works out over time. But I'm comfortable that there's a place for us and for them to coexist.
George, we've talked a little bit about the on-air folks a few moments ago, but also in recent years, the notion of ex-athletes becoming commentators. We've probably taken that to a new level, a new art form, because we have so much content and across so many platforms. What are your thoughts on that process and about how we approach it as a company?
Well, we're looking for experts, and certainly you don't need to have played the game to be an expert, but certainly bringing the knowledge that former athletes have contributes to our on-air product greatly. I don't think you can underestimate that, because until you've been out there, how do you really know exactly what an athlete is thinking or feeling in this particular point in time? So the former athletes who are on our air provide a great insight to our fans, and we try a lot of them out, and some are better than others, naturally, like any profession, and want to work hard. It's not an easy skill being in front of the camera, and being able to articulate various points to the fans. So you have to work on it too, but capturing the knowledge that those athletes have, and many of them world-class athletes, obviously, is invaluable for us. So they play a big role at ESPN.
I know on occasion we've been people like Bill Parcells and Bobby Valentine who are still vibrant presence is within their sports, and future potential at the time for Parcells coaching or management material and Bobby Valentine currently. But I know Norby Williamson will often say, hey, for as long as we can have these folks, they're going to make our audience smarter. And so we'll take the risk. It's worth it.
No question. And, we get a great benefit from when we can attract world-class coaches or athletes to our area. And as you point out, and I like that thinking, make our audience smarter. If we can do that, they're going to keep coming back for more.
Absolutely. Ratings, didn't have them so much in the early days. You could sell on the promise. Now we get ratings almost instantly. How much of your day-to-day do you spend on that, and what influence do ratings have on what we do around here?
I look at the ratings daily, like I think any buddy in my role would. I mean, it's nothing like getting an overnight report card as to how you're doing. So they're very important. Having said that, we're in this for the long term. We strike long-term relationships with the leagues and the distributors, and ratings can go up and down. So I don't get too excited, one way or the other. I try to stay, in the middle on that. But we're always looking at them, and we're always looking to try to improve them. Obviously, they have a direct result in a portion of our revenue stream with our advertising sales, so they're very important. And again, there's nothing like getting an overnight report card every single day of the year.
Well, haven't we also, George, kind of looked at ratings a little bit differently now, because it isn't just about television ratings, it's about usage. How many people watch or consume our content on their phone, online, on the radio, in our magazine. We're kind of leaders in trying to put together a multi-platform approach to how consumers consume our content.
Yes, the day is long past where we're only looking at television ratings to see answer the question, how are we doing? We want to see online, we want to see mobile, radio, we want to see everything. Social games, we have a great social game we launched just recently with College Town. We have nearly 4 million people using that, spending plenty of time per day on that. So we're looking at usage, ratings, interaction. We have 118 million people a week interact with some form of ESPN media, and we're constantly looking to grow that. Again, it goes back to our mission to serve sports fans wherever they wish to be served, and that's how the company will continue to grow and move forward.
So, George, we're hitting the home stretch here, just about the bottom of the ninth. How has ESPN changed sports in your mind?
I think ESPN has made sports more of part of the daily conversation than it's ever been. I get our league partners asking me about that all the time. And I think ESPN has played a big role in adding sports. Not adding sports, but growing sports as part of the daily conversation. Because I can't tell you how many people I talk to that tell me they wake up with it in the morning, they watch SportsCenter, they check it before they go to bed. They're interested in talking about it. Look at the BCS formula with we're into the heart of the college football season. I mean, people are passionate about this team, that team, strength of schedule, this poll, that poll. I mean, it's become a huge part of the national, the water cooler conversation, and I think ESPN plays a large role in that. It's an exciting place to be.
So that's one part of our, we may perhaps lead a dichotomous existence, right? We're a sports company. Also, even though we're in so many industries, our roots are in the cable industry. How would you say ESPN has impacted the cable industry in 31 years?
Well, I think ESPN and the cable industry have had a symbiotic relationship. They've both grown immensely over the last 30 years and have been very good for each other. I personally believe that ESPN is the most valuable product that is offered on cable systems, and you don't have to take my word for it. You look at poll after poll after poll, I mean for the last 20 years, and ESPN consistently is at the top in valuation, both by the cable operators themselves and, more importantly, the consumers. So we've played a big role, to answer your question, in helping grow the cable and satellite and now telephone industry.
So that it has changed, right? I mean, and you see the cable folks getting into these other businesses as well, digital and broadband and wireless and whatnot. How has that affected the industry, but also sports programming in general?
Well, I think it's fueled the whole business. I mean, the distributor's business is no longer just cable television. It's now data with your modem connections and also telephony with the telephone connections. So, there's really no such thing as a pure cable operator anymore. They're telecommunications distributors, and they offer a wide variety of products. And so, their health has fueled the health of the sports television business, which continues to grow, and there's more players competing for the rights, more businesses, I should say, competing for the rights than ever before. It's a great time to be a sports fan. I mean, you can get about anything you want as a sports fan now, whether it be on TV or online or on your handheld mobile device. I mean, it's a great time to be a fan.
We talked earlier, and I want to touch upon this a little bit as well, a little bit further about the international impact we've had and the global view that you have to have from your office. We're very vibrant in Latin America and South America. We've got a joint venture with Rupert Murdoch in Asia. The UK was the last bastion where, until recently, where we didn't have a lot of ESPN branded content. About a year and a half ago, we launched a network over there, and to me, that was the latest iteration of what our company is today, is what we're all about. I'd like you to tell that story very briefly.
In the UK, we were fortunate enough to acquire rights to the English Premier League, which is by far the most popular televised sport in England. I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 weeks before the start of the 2009 season. And so we literally had 6 to 8 weeks to get a network up and running, hire a full staff, prepare production, distribute it, sell it, prepare your marketing materials. I mean, I can't say enough for our staff, Russell Wolf, and who oversees our international efforts, and our staff in England, and really a Herculean effort to launch a network on about 6 weeks' notice. And we did it with aplomb, and it's off to a great success. We're now in year 2, and I'm hoping that we have a thriving business there for many years to come. But it was truly an example of the ESPN spirit and culture, being able to pull something together that quickly, which was an unusual set of circumstances, to say the least.
Do you see, what growth sports do you see on a global basis? I know soccer or football, depending upon where you live, we may have made a bet on that sport.
Yeah, I think soccer, football, as it's known around the rest of the world, certainly most popular sport, and we're going to continue to grow with it. We had the nice success this summer covering the World Cup from South Africa. We will replicate that just in a few years, 4 years, from down in Brazil, Sao Paulo, and really looking forward to that. So we've got a big investment in football, got a big investment in American football, and we'll hopefully can work with the NFL to export some of their product around the world. Basketball continues to grow around the world, auto racing, cricket. We're very invested in cricket around the world. Rugby. So, I mean, we're really well beyond the province of simply the American sports, but we're growing some of them around the world and taking sports from outside the world and helping them grow here.
We're seeing the globalization of sports is basically what you're saying.
I think so. I think it goes back to what I learned, traveling those small towns around the southwest of the U.S. many years ago, when every town's a sports town. I think every town in the world considers themselves a sports town. Certainly every country does, and they may be passionate about different things, but they are passionate about the sports that they love.
John Skipper, who you put in charge of all of our content, tells a story about how he said to you early on, I want to make a bet on soccer. You let him do it. So I use that anecdote as a way to kind of have you talk about what your management style is.
Well, I like to see passion. I like to see people who are passionate about things, because passion is a difference maker. People who are passionate go above and beyond, and they do what has to be done to make things work. And John is very passionate about soccer, and very early on, I mean, his first week in his new job, he came in to see me and said he wanted to take a run at the World Cup, and gave me his reasoning for doing so, and gave him the green light, and lo and behold, he went out and got it. He acquired the World Cup for ESPN domestically from South Africa and Brazil, and largely his vision was what the viewers saw on the air. Now, there was hundreds and hundreds of people helping put that vision together, but he certainly deserves credit for being the spark and the vision to behind what you saw on the screen this year, and it was because of his passion.
Do you have, George, as you look back on 31 years and more to come, a career highlight or two or three? Is it hard to pick one after?
You know, I get off asked that question often, but I think, Chris, people think you're the president of ESPN. You know, you must have breakfast with Jeter. You know, lunch with LeBron, and drinks with Muhammad Ali or something for dinner. That's I get enough of that, or I get plenty of that, I should say. And I've had my share of been fortunate enough to meet plenty of world-class athletes. But what I get the most joy out of in this job is seeing the ESPN people work together. Whether it's bring the World Cup to life, or launch HD or 3D, or start a network in 6 weeks. There's example after example of ESPN people working together to do something to benefit the company and serve the mission, and that's truly what I get the most enjoyment out of. So I don't have a single moment to answer your question. I have a collection of probably hundreds of moments where I see that happening, and it's the best part of my job.
One more question, George. I suspect that a lot of folks who want to break into this business will click on this interview. What advice would you give them?
I would tell them that it's a wonderful business, full of great people. It's fun, but it's competitive, and you got to be prepared to work hard. But if you have your mind on that, getting into the business, knock on enough doors till you get an opportunity, and make a career decision, not a money decision. You get an opportunity to get in the business, get in, and then go from there.
Great. Hey, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.